Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 27, text 12. Yesterday we were discussing a bit about Varna Shankara, and I was reading some other quotes by Srila Prabhupada, where he mentions that children which are born outside of marriage, then they are Varna Shankara. They become Varna Shankara. So,
Okay.
outside of marriage.
So the illicit only, the illicit children.
Yeah, that's
right?
why I read two
Illegitimate, yeah.
of Prabhupada and some other places. That's where he mentions. So is that okay?
Yeah, so there is this confusion that the other ones are Krishna who are born
Unwanted,
outside,
unwanted population.
unwanted. Okay, and the one that are born with the Garbhadan Sanskar are the devotees. They
Well,
are the proper.
that's the way, yeah. Actually,
yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And those who are born in a regular family of that, they were also called something, right? Is it the Shudra? No, it was something who are born to the Grahamedis.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay, that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna continue reading. Yuktesha evam pramatasya.
Yukteshu evam pramatasya.
Kutumbha sakta chetasa.
Kutumba asakta chetasa.
Asasada savai kalo.
Asasade savai kalo.
Yo priya priya yo shitam.
Yo apriya priya yo shitam.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, King Purañjana, being attached to fruitive activities, karma kandya, as well as kith and kin, and being obsessed with polluted consciousness, eventually I arrived at that point not very much liked by those who are overly attached to material things. In this verse, the words Priya Yoshitam and Apriya are very significant. The word Yoshit means woman, and Priya means dear or pleasing. Death is not very much welcome for those who are too much attached to material enjoyment, which culminates in sex. There is an instructive story in this connection. Once, when a saintly person was passing on his way, he met a prince, the son of a king, and he blessed him, saying, "My dear prince, may you live forever." The sage next met a saintly person and said to him, "You may either live or die." Eventually, the sage met a brahmachari devotee, and he blessed him, saying, "My dear devotee, you may die immediately." Finally, the sage met a hunter and blessed him, saying, "Neither live nor die." So we can see how the sage is blessing different people in different ways. The point is that those who are very sensual and are engaged in sense gratification do not wish to die. Generally, a prince has enough money to enjoy his senses. Therefore, the great sage said that he should live forever. For as long as he lived, he could enjoy life. But after his death, he would go to hell. So the sage is telling the prince, may you never die. So he can live on and on in this body, so he can enjoy, because the prince would have committed many sinful acts. Because of the sinful acts, his next life would be a life of suffering. So better for him to continue living in this body. Since the brahmachari devotee was leading a life of severe austerities and penances, in order to be promoted back to Godhead, the sage said that he should die immediately so that he need not continue to labor hard and could instead go back home, back to Godhead. So the brahmachari is very austere, doing so much penances, He wants to go back home, back to God, and the sage is blessing him. Yeah, may you die immediately. Because, okay, once he goes back home, back to God, and he's with Krishna, no? Then he doesn't need to do austerity and penance. A saintly person may either live or die, for during his life he is engaged in serving the Lord, and after his death he also serves the Lord. Thus, this life and the next are the same for a saintly devotee, for in both he serves the Lord. So the pure devotee, whether he lives or dies, doesn't matter. He is serving Krishna in this life. After he dies, also after he goes back home, also he will continue to serve Krishna. So it doesn't matter where he is, because he is already engaged in perfection in service to Krishna. Since the hunter lives a very ghastly life due to killing animals, and since he will go to hell when he dies, he is advised to neither live nor die. So the hunter, in living, he is causing so much harm to others. And in death, he's going to suffer so much. So he got the benediction, may you neither live nor die, because in living, he's making others suffer. When he's going to die, he's going to suffer very bad. So that's the point. That's how the sage is giving different kinds of benedictions to different kind of people. King Purañjana finally arrived at the point of old age. In old age, the senses lose their strength. And although an old man desires to enjoy his senses, and especially sex life, he is very miserable because his instruments of enjoyment no longer function. Such sensualists are never prepared for death. They simply want to live on and extend their life by so-called scientific advancement. Some foolish Russian scientists also claim that they're going to make man immortal through scientific advancement. Under the leadership of such crazy fellows, civilization is going on. Cruel death, however, comes and takes all of them away despite their desire to live forever. This type of mentality was exhibited by Hiranyakashipu, but when the time was right, the Lord personally killed him within a second. So no matter how much plans we make to live permanently in this body, at one time, death is going to come and we have to give it up. We may say by this advancement or that advancement, we are going to put an end to death, but that's not possible. Our time in this body is temporal. Okay. Caṇḍavega iti kyato.
Caṇḍavega iti kyato.
Gandharva adhipatir nripa.
Gandharva adhipati nipaha.
Gandharvastasya balina.
Gandharvastasya balina.
Shasti uttara shatatrayam.
Shashti uttara shatatrayam.
Okay, in Gandharva there is a king named Caṇḍavega. Under him there are 360 very powerful Gandharva soldiers. Time is figuratively described here as Caṇḍavega. Since time and tide wait for no man, time is herein called Caṇḍavega, which means very swiftly passing away. As time passes, it is calculated in terms of years. 1 year contains 360 days, and the soldiers of Caṇḍavega herein mentioned represent these days. So time, Krishna says, time I am. With time, everything deteriorates in this material world. Time has a deteriorating effect and annihilating effect in the material world. Time is eternal. Time is the impersonal representation of Krishna. Time represents Krishna. So 360 days, that is called as the soldiers of Caṇḍavega. Time passes swiftly. Caṇḍavega's powerful soldiers of Gandharvalok very swiftly carry away all the days of our life. As the sun rises and sets, it snatches away the balance of our lifespan. Thus, as each day passes, each one of us loses some of life's duration. We don't realize, as the seconds go by, minutes, hours, days, our life in this body is reducing. It is therefore said that the duration of one's life cannot be saved. But if one is engaged in devotional service, his time cannot be taken away by the sun. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 17, Ayur Harati Pumsam Udayan Astam Chayan Aso. The conclusion is that if one wants to make himself immortal, he should give up sense gratification. By engaging oneself in devotional service, one can gradually enter into the eternal kingdom of God. So time Bhagavatam says time, the sun by its rising and setting takes away the life of an ordinary person, but not of the devotee. Not of the devotee. Why? Because the devotee is engaged in devotional service. So, in fact, the result of that is eternal. So time cannot take away that result. The spiritual result, the eternal result of the devotional service of the devotee. So mirages and other illusory things are sometimes called Gandharvas. Our losing our lifespan is taken as advancement of age. This imperceptible passing away of the days of life is figuratively referred to in this verse as Gandharvas. So mirage, there's no mirage. I mean, we think there is water in the desert, but it actually does not exist. So it's a mirage. Illusion, like this world it's actually a reflection of reality, but we are thinking it's real. So it's like a mirage. This imperceptible passing away of the days of life is figuratively referred to in this verse as Gandharvas. As explained in later verses, such Gandharvas are both male and female. This indicates that both men and women lose their lifespan imperceptibly by the force of time, which is herein described as Caṇḍavega. So Caṇḍavega is time, and his servants, his assistants, soldiers are called the days. And as the days goes by, our time in this body gets less. Gandharvyastadrishirasya
Gandharvatadrishi asya
Maithunyascha sita sita
Maithunyascha sita asita
Parivritya vilumpanti
Parivritya viluppanti
Sarvakama vinirmitam.
Sarvakama vinirmitam.
Along with Caṇḍavega were as many female Gandharvis as there were soldiers, and all of them repetitively plundered all the paraphernalia for sense enjoyment. The days have been compared to the soldiers of Caṇḍavega. Night is generally a time for sex enjoyment. Days are considered to be white and night are considered to be black. Or, from another point of view, there are two kinds of nights, black nights and white nights. All these days and nights combine to pass away our span of life and everything we manufacture for sense gratification. So the day is white, of course, because the sun is there, everything is bright, we can see. The night is dark, we can't see. Again, there are two kinds of night, black night and white night, depending on the size of the moon, the position of the moon. So material activity means manufacturing things for sense gratification. Scientists are conducting research to find out how we can satisfy our senses more and more elaborately. In this Kali Yuga, the demoniac mentality is employed in manufacturing various machines to facilitate the process of sense gratification. There are so many machines for ordinary household activities. There are machines for washing dishes, cleansing the floor, shaving, clipping hair. Today, everything is done by machine. All these facilities for sense gratification are described in this verse as sarva kama vinirmitam. The time factor, however, is so strong that not only is our span of life being expended, but all the machines and facilities for sense gratification are deteriorating. Therefore, in this verse, the word vilumpanti, plundering, is used. Everything is being plundered from the very beginning of our lives. So with time, even the machines that we are manufacturing, they deteriorate. There's an expiry date. Oh, juna ho gaya, abhi phek do. Like that, right? We say, oh, it's been so long. Oh, I need to get a new one. So this plundering of our possessions and lifespan begins with the day of our birth. One day will come when death will finish everything, and the living entity will have to enter another body to begin another chapter of life, and again begin the cycle of material sense gratification. So our time in this body is temporary. At one time, we will have to give up this body, and then we have to take up another body. Prahlad Maharaj describes this process as puna punas charvita charvanana. Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 5, Text 13. Materialistic life means chewing the chewed again and again. Chewing the chewed. We are trying to chew out. There's a gum, we have already chewed it. There's no rust in it. Still trying to chew it. Maybe there'll be some juice. Maybe there's some juice. We've already enjoyed this material world. We have been Lord Brahma. We have been the worm in the stool. But still we are saying, there's something I haven't experienced. Maybe there's something I haven't experienced. The central point of material life is sense gratification. In different types of bodies, the living entity enjoys various senses, and through creating various types of facilities, we choose the chew. Whether we squeeze sugar out of the sugar cane with our teeth or a machine, the result is the same, sugarcane juice. We may discover many ways to squeeze the juice out of the sugarcane. The result is the same. So, sure, we can manufacture machines, helps us, improves our quality of life, gives us time to do other things. And with that time, we can hear and chant. The time that we save when we are using the gadgets to help us doing our daily necessities, then the extra time we get, we can hear from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and thus revive our lost Krishna consciousness. Te Caṇḍavega anuchara.
Te Caṇḍavega anuchara.
Purañjana Puram Yada.
हाँ Purañjana Puram Yada.
Artum Ari Bhire Tatra.
Hartumare bire tatra.
Pratyasedat Prajagara.
Pratyaksheda Prajagaraha.
When King Gandharva Caṇḍavega and his followers began to plunder the city of Purañjana, a snake with 5 hoods began to defend the city. When one is sleeping, the life air remains active in different dreams. The 5 hoods of the snake indicate that the life air is surrounded by 5 kinds of air known as pran, apan, vyan, Udan, and Samman. When the body is inactive, the pran or the life air is active. Up to the age of 50, one can actively work for sense gratification. But after the 50th year, one's energy decreases. Although one can, with great strain, work for 2 or 3 more years, perhaps up to the 55th year. Thus, the 55th year is generally taken by government regulations as the final year for retirement. The energy which is fatigued after 50 years is figuratively described herein as a servant with 5 hoods. Now, of course, the government is increasing and increasing the retirement age, means they're making it later and later. So the serpent is compared to the 5 kinds of air. The air, pran, apan, vayan, udan, and saman, that are surrounding the life air, the soul. Se saptabhi shater eko.
Saptabhishatere eko.
Vimshatya cha shatam sama.
Vimshatya cha shatam sama.
Purañjana puradhyaksho.
Puranjana pura adhyaksho.
Gandharver yuyude bali.
Gandharve yuyude bali.
The 5 hooded serpent, the superintendent and protector of the city of King Purañjana, fought with the Gandharvas for 100 years. He fought alone with all of them, although they numbered 720. The 360 days and 360 nights combined to become the 720 soldiers of Caṇḍavega time. One has to fight the soldiers throughout one's lifespan, beginning with birth and ending with death. This fight is called the struggle for existence. Despite the struggle, however, the living entity does not die. So with death, we are not going to die. Death means changing of the body. We change from one body to another body, and that process is called death. So the living entity never dies. We are the living entity. We are not the body. We are the soul. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2:20, the living entity is eternal. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin, nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya, ajo nitya shasvato yam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul, there is never birth nor death. Nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So we can see these are the qualities of the soul Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. It's there in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So the soul, we are the soul. There's never birth, never death. Oh, but how? We are having a birthday and a death day. But that is of the body, never for the soul. We are eternal. And here Krishna is saying, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. So it doesn't mean that, oh, right now I'm existing, but after I give up this material body, or after I give up the material world, or after I get liberated, then I will not exist anymore. No. Krishna is saying, no, we are eternal, ever existing. And because we are existing, there's never going to be a point of time where we are not going to exist. So liberation is not the end. Liberation is actually the beginning of real life. Actually, the living entity does not take birth, nor does he die, but he has to fight with the stringent laws of material nature throughout the entire span of his lifetime. He must also face different kinds of miserable conditions. Despite all this, the living entity, due to illusion, thinks that he is well situated in sense gratification. So in our lifetime, we have our ups and downs, we have our good times, we have our bad times, but we are thinking, oh, I'm very happy. I'm very happy in the material world. And this is the illusion. This is the illusory potency of Maya. She keeps us captivated here. Shriyamane swasambandhe
Priyamano swasambandhe
ekasmin bahubhiryudha
ekasmin bahubiryudha
chintam param jagam martha
chintam param jagat artha
sarashtra purabandhava.
sarashtra purabandhava.
Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Purañjana and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. The living entity resides within the body and struggles for existence with the limbs of the body, which are referred to here as citizens and friends. So the limbs, the hands, the legs. One can struggle alone with many soldiers for some time, but not for all time. The living entity within the body can struggle up to the limit of 100 years with good luck. But after that, it is not possible to prolong the struggle. Thus, the living entity submits and falls victim. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Vriddha Kala Aula Sabha Sukha Bhagala. When one becomes old, it becomes impossible to enjoy material happiness. Because the body has become old, the senses have become old, the eyes have become weak. Even though we want to see beautiful things, are struggling to see, or ears have becoming deaf, can't hear very well, you know. So it becomes difficult to enjoy within the body as the body grows older and older. Generally, people think that religion and piety come at the end of life. And at this time, one generally becomes meditative and takes to some so-called yogic process to relax in the name of meditation. Meditation, however, is simply a farce for those who have enjoyed life in sense gratification. As described in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, meditation, dhyan, dharana, is a difficult subject matter that one has to learn from his very youth. To meditate, one must restrain himself from all kinds of sense gratification. Unfortunately, meditation has now become a fashion for those who are overly addicted to sensual things. Such meditation is defeated by the struggle for existence. Sometimes such meditative processes pass for transcendental meditation. King Purañjana, the living entity, being thus victimized by the hard struggle for existence, took to transcendental meditation with his friends and relatives. So hard struggle for existence. We are struggling hard in this body, but the body cannot endure the struggle for very long. In Kali Yuga, maximum one lives up to is 100 years, if even. Sure, there may be some people who are living more than 100 years, but what's the percentage? How many? We can count a handful of such people. Yeah, but average is not even 100. So then meditation, of course, taking up meditation at the end of life, Prabhupada is pointing out it's not supposed to be taken up at end of life. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells how actually meditation is supposed to be done. You're supposed to go to the forest alone and then find a seat over there, follow the rules and regulations, and then begin the process of meditation. So that is not recommended for us in this age of Kali. it's not possible. We do not have such a long life to actually engage in proper meditation. Sa eva puryam madhubho
Sa eva puryam madhubho
panchaleshu swaparshade
panchaleshu swaparshade
upanitam balim grahnan
upnitam balim grahan
strijito na vidadvayam.
Prichito na avidat bhayam.
King Purañjana collected taxes in the city known as Panchal and thus was able to engage in sexual indulgence. Being completely under the control of women, he could not understand that his life was passing away and that he was reaching the point of death. Government men, including kings, presidents, secretaries, and ministers, are in a position to utilize taxes collected from the citizens for sense gratification. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that in this Kali Yuga, government men, Rajanyas, and those connected with the government, as well as exalted government ministers, secretaries, and presidents, will all simply collect taxes for sense gratification. The government is top heavy, and without increasing taxes, the government cannot maintain itself. When taxes are collected, they are utilized for the sense gratification of the government officials. So the taxes are actually meant to be used for the protection of the citizens, not to maintain all the government officers. Only a certain percentage is supposed to be for the maintenance of the government officers, but majority of it is supposed to be for the protection of the citizens. But in Kali Yuga, it's not so. Such irresponsible politicians forget that there is a time when death will come to take away all the sense gratification. Some of them are convinced that after life everything is finished. This atheistic theory was conceived long ago by a philosopher called Charvaka. Charvaka recommended that man should live very opulently by either begging, borrowing, or stealing. He also maintained that one should not be afraid of death, the next life, the past life, or an impious life, because after the body is burned to ashes, everything is finished. This is the philosophy of those who are too much materially addicted. So there was a philosopher called Charvaka, and he propounded this philosophy. Don't worry, whatever you want to do, you do. Anyway, after you die, you don't exist anymore. And so there are no reactions. And so live opulently either by begging, borrowing, or stealing. But this is not correct. Why? Because we are never going to die. We continue to live after the body is dead. Well, the body is always dead. Body is actually never living. It appears to be living because we, the living entity, are within it. So this is the philosophy of those who are too much materially addicted. Such philosophizing will not save one from the danger of death, nor will it save one from an abominable life after. Well, one may say, oh, well, I can do anything I like because after that, anyway, I don't exist. But it doesn't mean that one can get away from the laws of nature because ignorance is not, we can't appeal on the basis of ignorance when we are taken to Yamraj court. Oh, I'm still alive, I'm still existing, but I thought I will not exist anymore after I die. And so I did whatever I did because I didn't know I'm going to continue to exist. Well, Yamraj says, well, that you had to find that out, you know. Laws of material nature are set. Like, you know, if we are driving on the wrong side of the road, then we are going to get penalized because the authorities will say, well, you should have found out what are the laws before you started driving. So the fact is, we are souls, we never die. We are eternal, ever existing. What we have to do is we have to get out of this material world. and go back home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. Kalasya duhita kache
Kalasya duhita kachit
trilokim varam ichchate
trilokam varamicchati
paryatantina barhishman
paryattanti na barhishman
pratyanandata kaschana.
pratyanandata kaschanaha.
My dear King Prachina Barishad, at this time, the daughter of formidable time, was seeking her husband throughout the three worlds. Although no one agreed to accept her, she came. In due course of time, when the body becomes old and practically invalid, it is subject to jara, the sufferings of old age. There are four basic kinds of suffering: birth, old age, disease, and death. No scientist or philosopher has ever been able to make a solution to these four miserable conditions. So, birth, death, old age, and disease. We have made a lot of progress. We have reached the moon. We have created so many medicines. We have created so many gadgets, but we have no solution to this. We cannot stop becoming old. Sure, we can stop looking old, but we cannot stop becoming old. We cannot stop diseases, although we can manufacture many medicines. And of course, death, we cannot stop death. The invalidity of old age, known as Jara, is figuratively explained here as the daughter of time. No one likes her, but she is very much anxious to accept anyone as her husband. No one likes to become old and invalid, but this is inevitable for everyone. Daurbhagya ne, daurbhagye na, ne, natmanoloke.
Durbhagyena.
Thank you. Daurbhagye natmanoloke.
Durbhagyena atmanah loke
Vishruta durbhageti sa.
vishruta durbhaga iti sa
Yatushta rajarshyetu.
sa tushta yatushta rajarishayetu
Vratadad purave varam.
vrita adat purave varam.
The daughter of time, Jara, was very unfortunate. Consequently, she was known as Durbhaga, ill-fated. However, she was once pleased with a great king, and because the king accepted her, she granted him a great benediction. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Sabha Sukha Bhagala, all kinds of happiness disappear in old age. Consequently, no one likes old age or Jara. Thus, Jara, as the daughter of time, is known as a most unfortunate daughter. Surely no one waits for old age. We are always trying to get away. We don't want to become old. We want to remain ever young, ever youthful, isn't it? So she was, however, at one time accepted by great King Yayati. Yayati was cursed by his father-in-law Shukracharya to accept her. When Shukracharya's daughter was married to King Yayati, one of her friends named Sharmishta went with her. Later, King Yayati became very much attached to Sharmishta, and Shukracharya's daughter complained to her father. Consequently, Shukracharya cursed King Yayati to become prematurely old. So Shukracharya's daughter, she married King Yayati, and her friend, she had a friend called Sharmishta, and Yayati became attached to Sharmishta. So Shukracharya's daughter told her father, and Shukracharya cursed Yayati, "Oh, you're going to become old." King Yayati had 5 youthful sons, and he begged all his sons to exchange their youth for his old age. No one agreed except the youngest son, whose name was Puru. Upon accepting Yayati's old age, Puru was given the kingdom. So Yayati still wanted to engage in sense gratification. So he told his 5 sons, please exchange with me. Give me your youth and take my old age. The other son said, no way, why shall we do that? Well, anyway, one of his sons called Puru, he accepted it and he was given the kingdom. It is said that two of Yayati's other sons, being disobedient to their father, were given kingdoms outside of India, most probably Turkey and Greece. The purport is that one can accumulate wealth and all kinds of material opulences, but during old age, one cannot enjoy them. Although Puru attained his father's kingdom, he could not enjoy all the opulence, for he had sacrificed his youth. One should not wait for old age in order to become Krishna conscious. Due to the invalidity of old age, one cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness, however opulent he may be materially. So, we are encouraged to take up Krishna consciousness immediately because someone may say, oh, I'll take it up when I'm old. But when we are old, we may be too old to take it up. We may be, you know, the body may trouble us too much that we may not be able to take up the process. So we are encouraged to take up hearing and chanting immediately. Worshipping the deity and offering prayers. Kadachit manasa
Kadachit atmanasa
brahma lokan mahim gatam
brahmalokatmahim gatam
bhavre brahat vratam mamtu
vabre brahadvratam mam tu
janati kama mohita.
janati kamamohita.
When I once came to this earth from Brahmalok, the highest planetary system, the daughter of time, wandering over the universe, met me. Knowing me to be an avowed brahmachari, she became lusty and proposed that I accept her. The great sage Narad Muni was a Naishtika brahmachari, that is, he never had sex life. He was consequently an evergreen youth. Old age Jara could not attack him. The invalidity of old age can overcome an ordinary man, but Narad Muni was different. Taking Narad Muni to be an ordinary man, the daughter of time confronted him with her lusty desire. It requires great strength to resist a woman's attraction. It is difficult for old men, and what to speak of young. Those who live as brahmacharis must follow in the footsteps of the great sage Narad Muni, who never accepted the proposals of Jara. Those who are too much sexually addicted become victims of Jara, and very soon their lifespan is shortened. Without utilizing the human form of life for Krishna consciousness, the victims of Jara die very soon in this world. So Narad Muni is saying that Jara wanted to overcome him, but he is a Nashtika brahmachari, he never married, so he looks always youthful. He doesn't look old at all. Mai samrabhya vipula
Mai samrabhya vipula
madachapam sudhusaham
madat shapam sudusaham
sthatum arhasi naikatra
statum arhasi nekatra
mad yachna vimukho mune.
matyachna vimukho mune.
The great sage Narad continued, when I refused to accept her request, she became very angry at me and cursed me severely. Because I refused a request, she said, I would not be able to stay in one place for a long time. The great sage Narad Muni has a spiritual body. Therefore, old age, disease, birth, and death do not affect him. Narad is the most kind devotee of the Supreme Lord. and his only business is to travel all over the universe and preach God consciousness. In other words, his business is to make everyone a Vaishnava. So Narad Muni, he's a pure devotee of the Lord. Sometimes some entertainers, they misrepresent Narad Muni's position. But Narad Muni is a very pure devotee of Krishna, and he's so compassionate. Because of his compassion, he's traveling all over the universes for our benefit, to give us Krishna consciousness. So he wants everyone to become a devotee. Under the circumstances, there is ordinarily no need for him to stay in one place for more than the time he requires to preach, since by his own free will he is already traveling all over the universe. The curse of Kalakanya is described as fortune. Like Narad Muni, many other devotees of the Lord are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord in different places and in different universes. Such personalities are beyond the jurisdiction of material laws. So the devotees, their only business, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna Upadesh. Then wherever they go, whoever they meet, they, they give God consciousness, Krishna consciousness to everyone, because they want everyone to revive their relationship with Krishna. They want everyone to be happy. And they understand that everyone can be happy only after we have revived our relationship with Krishna. Tato vihata sankalpa
Tato vihata sankalpa
kanyaka yavaneshwaram
kanyaka yavaneshwaraha
mayopadishtam asadya
mayo upadishtam asadha
vavre namna bhayam patim.
vabre namna bhayam patim.
After she was thus disappointed by me with my permission, she approached the king of the Yavanas, whose name was Bhay, of fear, and she accepted him as her husband. Being the most perfect Vaishnava, Sri Narad Muni is always willing to do good to others, even to one who curses him. Although Kalakanya, the daughter of time, was refused by Narad Muni, she was given a shelter. Of course, no one could give her shelter, but a Vaishnav gives shelter somewhere to such an unfortunate girl. When Jara or old age attacks, everyone dwindles and deteriorates. In one stroke, Narad Muni gave shelter to Kalakanya and counterattacked the ordinary cults. If one accepts the instructions of Narad Muni, the ocean of fear, bhaya, can be very quickly removed by the grace of that great Vaishnava. So, following in the footsteps of Narad Muni, accepting Narad Muni's instructions. And if we can do that, then we can become fearless. We are very fearful always. So fearless by accepting instructions of Narad Muni. Rishabham yavananam tvam
Vishabham yavananam tvam
rine virepshitam patim
vrine veera ipisitam patim
sankalpastvai bhutana
sankalpa tavaya bhutanam
krita kila narishyate.
krita kila nriyashyati.
Approaching the king of the Yavanas, Kalakanya addressed him as a great hero, saying, "My dear sir, you are the best of the untouchables. I am in love with you, and I want you as my husband. I know that no one is baffled if he makes friends with you." The words Yavananam Rishabham refer to the king of the Yavanas. The Sanskrit words Yavana and Malecha apply to those who do not follow the Vedic principles. According to the Vedic principles, one should rise early in the morning, take bath, chant Hare Krishna, offer Mangal Arti to the deities, study Vedic literature, take prasad, and engage in dressing and decorating the deities. So the morning program that Prabhupada has mentioned, rise early in the morning, take bath, chant Hare Krishna, offer Mangalarti, study Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, take prasad, engage in dressing and decorating the deities. One must also collect money for the temple expenditures. Or if one is a householder, he must go to work in accordance with the prescribed duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. In this way, one should live a life of spiritual understanding, and this is the Vedic way of civilization. One who does not follow all these rules and regulations is called a Yavana or Malecha. One should not mistakenly think that these words refer to certain classes of men in other countries. There is no question of limitation according to nationalism. Whether one lives in India or outside of India, he is called a Yavan or Malecha if he does not follow the Vedic principles. So anyone, anywhere, who does not follow Vedic principles, Srila Prabhupada is saying, is a Yavan or Malecha. It doesn't mean that it means somebody born in a particular country or a community or society. No, one who's not following the Vedic principles. One who does not actually follow the hygienic principles prescribed in the Vedic rules and regulations will be subjected to many contagious diseases. Because the students in this Krishna consciousness movement are advised to follow the Vedic principles, they naturally become hygienic. If a person is Krishna conscious, he can work like a young man, even if he's 75 or 80 years old. We saw how Srila Prabhupada, he left India at 69, alone, without any money. And then he started this Hare Krishna movement. And he traveled all over the world 14 times or so in 11 years. So at such an advanced age, he was continuously working. Thus, the daughter of Kal, time, cannot overcome a Vaishnava. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami engaged in writing Caitaniya Caritamita when he was very old. Yet he presented the most wonderful literature about the activities of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami began their spiritual lives at very old age. That is, after they retired from their occupations and family lives. Yet they presented many valuable literatures for the advancement of spiritual life. So Prabhupada is explaining that for a devotee, age does not matter. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was supposed to be almost 90 years old when he wrote Caitanya Caritamita. And he gave such a wonderful book he has presented for us. Srila Prabhupada, he was giving the purpose. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam and giving us the purpose. Even when he was so sick, he was not eating anything, not drinking anything. He was so sick, and yet he was able to give us the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada is mentioning about Rup Sanatan Goswami, that they also began their spiritual lives when they were old. So this is confirmed by Srila Srinivas Acharya, who praised the Goswamis in this way. Nana Shastra Vicharinika Nipano Saddharma Samsthapakam Lokanam Hittakarino Tribhuvane Manao Sharanyakara Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Dane Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujagam Shri Jiva Gopalakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the Vedic scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So Srinivas Acharya, a very great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So he is singing the glories of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. And what are the six Goswamis doing? They are scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures to establish eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. So this is what the Goswamis were doing. They were studying scrutinizingly the Shastras to give us, for the benefit of all human beings, to give us what is the eternal religious principle. And the six Goswamis, they are honored all over the world and they are worth taking shelter. You know, we have so many shelters. Here Srinivas Acharya is saying, take shelter of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. Why? Because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis. So they are having this gopi bhav, mood of the gopis, and they are serving Radha and Krishna in the mood of the gopis. So that is the internal mood. Externally, they are studying the scriptures, they are writing the scriptures, they're telling us what is the eternal religious principle. And internally, the mood is that they're serving Radha and Krishna in the mood of the gopis. And so Srinivas Acharya is telling us we should take shelter of the six Goswamis. Thus, Jara, the effect of old age, does not harass a devotee. This is because a devotee follows the instructions and the determination of Narad Muni. All devotees are in the disciplic succession stemming from Narad Muni because they worship the deity according to Narad Muni's direction, namely the Narad Pancharatra or the Pancharatrika Vidhi. So Narad Muni has given this Pancharatrika Vidhi of how to worship the deity. A devotee follows the principle of Pancharatrika Vidhi as well as Bhagavad Vidhi. Bhagavad Vidhi includes preaching work, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting the glories of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Bhagavad Vidhi, hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam, and spreading the holy name, hearing and chanting ourselves and encouraging others to hear and chant. And the Pancharatrika Vidhi includes Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedana. So the deity worship, worshipping the deities, offering prayers, being in the mood of servant, serving in the mood of a servant or a friend or complete surrender. Because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narad Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When Jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, Kalkanya diminishes the devotee's fear. The devotee knows that after death he is going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. So a devotee, we can see, people become depressed when people get old because they're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Where will I go after death? But the devotee is enlivened. He says, I'm going back to Krishna. And whatever time he is in the body, he's always serving Krishna. And so old age does not actually affect him in the sense that he continues his activities in Krishna consciousness. He does not stop. There's no retirement in Krishna consciousness. No matter one gets old, he continues engaging in hearing and chanting, becomes fearless, goes back home, back to Godhead. Is that okay?
Yes.
Did you want to add anything or comment anything?
It was so beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll stop here for today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur
Jai.
Bhakta. Hare
Jai.